Welcome to another episode of Neowolf News. I'm your host, Neowolf. Have you ever had a dream that was so impactful that you still remember it to this day? Or maybe you've had a dream that was a reoccurring dream that every time you woke up, you'd wonder, why did I have that dream again? Or maybe you've had a vision when you've been into that really meditative state halfway in between awake and sleep? Well, in this episode, I'm going to talk about dreams, visions, and even some nightmares and some of my personal experiences. So let's get right into this. So when I was young, some of the first dreams that I can remember were actually nightmares. I can remember being chased around my farm by vampires. And this was definitely a reoccurring dream for me. And I would always wake up and be afraid. Of course I'd be afraid. And I remember having a lot of cramps when I was young. And that was likely because I felt like I was running all throughout my dreams. I remember these just being so painful. I'd have to go into my mom and have her massage my legs and even take some painkillers if I had to. So these dreams went on for quite a few years. And it was probably up until about the age of 11. Because I feel like at our double-digit years, 11, 22, 33, so on, these are like our power years, and these are like kind of our rites of passage. And I can remember having a dream around that age of 11. And this was more of a visionary type dream, that it was me and another, I don't remember if it was a person or what kind of being I was with, but this was a proposition, and it was a proposition for my soul. And I remember in this dream, I didn't really understand fully what my soul was, but I knew that I had always kept a conversation with God, and that I was praying every night before I went to sleep and praying for protection. And so I remember that I stayed strong, and I decided, even though I didn't really know what my soul was, it was valuable to me, and I knew that it was going to be worthwhile for me to hold on to it. So then if I look at the next power year, the 22 period, this was coming out of college, and I was still in that lifestyle. I said that a lot in the previous video, that I was still in that lifestyle, playing a lot of softball with my high school friends and going out to the bars and doing a lot of drinking. And it was during this time that I would see that a lot of times my friends would get so drunk that it was like, you could even see it in their eyes, that almost like something took over their body, like that they would do things that they normally wouldn't do. And I always wondered about this. And when I went to the Burning Man Festival in 2010, I attended a talk. It was a Siberian shaman, and she was talking about how she got called in by a community because their kids were getting possessed by evil spirits. And she said that they were partying in a field that was an old battlefield site. And so that there was a lot of spiritual energy there. And that when they would get drunk, that these spirits would enter their bodies. And I know for me personally, I would have sleepwalking episodes occasionally. I know that a lot of times I would get told about it. Sometimes I would even end up waking up somewhere different than when I remember falling asleep. And I remember especially some nights, we would end the nights with Jägermeister and Red Bull. We would combine the two. They were called Jaeger bombs. And for sure these nights, it was always like, I could not remember what happened at the end of those nights. So I remember there was a time back around 2008, I was partying with some friends in Wisconsin, and they had told me that I tried to get up and sleepwalk, and I was going to walk right outside the front door that didn't have steps built, so I would have fallen. And the strange thing about this one was, it was the next day when I got a phone call and I found out that my cousin had passed away. He had a serious ATV accident when he was drinking and driving, and he had actually ended up dying that night. And when I heard this, I couldn't help but to think about the time that we went to my cousin's wedding down in Nebraska, and me and him got to spend a lot more time together than we really ever had before. And we were, again, partying and having fun, and I got into a comfortable state, and I couldn't help but to feel like I had to warn him about that his lifestyle was potentially dangerous, and that if he didn't change and be a little bit more cautious, that he potentially could die. And I was really trying to get the point through. I was expressing that I felt like I really understood how he was, and that, I understood that rebellious nature, and that, I'm not all that careful with my life either, but think of your mom, what if the worst was to happen? What would she think? So then when I got that news, it was just really hard for me to take that, because I knew that I'd really reached out, and I tried to express that in my most sincere way. But, even though it hurts and you try to do your best. It's just sometimes people have their own karma, and that there's nothing that you can do to intervene in order to stop that potential from being reality. So for me, it was in 2006 when I decided to give up the party life and not drink anymore. And that really got me out of the scene and not being in the bars and not being around the same crowd. I started to associate with different people, more of the type of people that want to contribute and try to work together instead of feed off of each other's energy and be energy vampires. And I know I mentioned that in the previous video too. You still do run into that. And so I want to mention some ways that you can help protect yourself so that you don't be vulnerable for these energy vampires. And there's a good book all about psychic vampires, and the name of the book is Psychic Vampires if you want to look that one up on Amazon. And like I said earlier in this video, keep your faith in God and just keep that connection and be confirmed in Christ and the Christ consciousness. And we talked about your animal guides, your totem. Know your characteristics, know what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and be in your own integrity. And always have gratitude. If you're gifted with a dream or a vision, make sure that you give thanks. That this is a gift, that not everybody has this kind of opportunity. So we've come to the end of what I want to talk about in this video, so I hope you enjoyed this content. And if you want to follow us on social media, I'm at NeoWolf News on Brighteon, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, as well as Gab, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.